The call came, a tremor in the voice he knew too well. "It's about Daniel Harper. He broke my arm." The line went dead, a chasm of silence opening up between them. Lily Harper's fingers, clumsy with shock, scrambled for her phone. Tears welled, distorting the screen into a blurry mess of light. A dull, throbbing ache radiated from her arm, each pulse a stark reminder of what had just transpired. Summoning every ounce of strength, she tapped out the number, her heart a frantic drum against her ribs. One ring, two, an eternity stretched in the spaces between. Then, that familiar rumble, a deep resonance that always brought a flicker of comfort. "Hello?" Noah Harper's voice, gravelly and solid, cut through the static. "Daniel Harper." Her voice cracked, a fragile thing on the verge of shattering. She fought to regulate her breathing, but ragged sobs clawed their way up her throat. I need help." The scrape of a chair being pushed back echoed through the phone, followed by the thud of hurried footsteps. The concern in his voice grew with each syllable. "Lily Harper, what's wrong?" "It's Evan Brooks," she managed, each word a painful expulsion of air. "We had a fight and he—" Fresh tears streamed down her face as the memory slammed into her with brutal force. The escalating argument, the shove, the sickening, unmistakable crack of bone. "He broke my arm. Daniel Harper. I'm at the hospital." The silence that followed was thick, suffocating. Lily Harper could practically see the transformation taking place miles away, the hardening of his jaw, the chilling darkness that would flood his eyes. It was a look she had witnessed countless times, a primal rage that had sent playground bullies scattering and made grown men avert their gaze. Which hospital? The words were clipped, devoid of emotion, yet laced with a barely restrained fury. St. Mary's. She winced as she shifted in the plastic emergency room chair, a wave of nausea washing over her. "But Daniel Harper, please. Did you call the police?" "No, Her voice faltered, the confession hanging heavy in the air. "I was scared. I just didn't know what to do. He was so angry, Daniel Harper. I've never seen him like that before." The fluorescent lights above buzzed with a relentless hum, each flicker amplifying her anxiety as she waited for his response. A passing nurse cast a sympathetic glance her way, but Lily Harper turned away, pressing the phone tighter against her ear. "He promised he'd never—" Her voice was a mere breath. "We were talking about moving in together just last week. Everything was fine until tonight. I don't understand what happened." She could hear his breathing, heavy and measured, a mirror of their father's attempts to rein in his own volatile temper. A shiver ran down her spine. "Like father, like son. Daniel Harper, please say something." More silence. Then the unmistakable creak of leather. Daniel Harper donning his Daniel Harperette. A cold dread coiled in her stomach. She knew what that sound signified. "Daniel Harper, maybe we should— I'm on my way." His voice was glacial, each word deliberate and precise. The tone sent tendrils of fear snaking through her. "Wait." Then the line went dead, leaving only the sterile hum of the hospital and the frantic beat of her heart. Lily Harper stared at her phone, her good hand trembling. She knew her brother too well. She recognized the barely contained rage simmering beneath his controlled response. The same rage that had earned him his infamous nickname within the motorcycle club. The beast had been unleashed, and she was powerless to call him back. She looked down at her injured arm, now encased in a temporary splint. The pain medication was beginning to wear off, but the physical discomfort was insignificant compared to the gnawing dread in her gut. She had set something terrible in motion, and she wasn't sure if she could live with the fallout. The emergency room continued its chaotic dance around her, a swirling vortex of beeping machines and hushed voices. Yet, Lily Harper felt utterly isolated. In the distance, she thought she heard the distinct rumble of a motorcycle engine, and her heart hammered against her ribs. The Harley roared to life, a familiar symphony of raw power that vibrated through Daniel Harper's very core. Streetlights cast long, distorted shadows across his leather vest, the worn patches of his motorcycle club gleaming faintly in the darkness. His large, calloused hands, adorned with faded tattoos that told silent stories, gripped the handlebars with white-knuckled intensity. The world seemed to slow, each sensation heightened as his rage took hold. A young couple strolled past on the sidewalk, giving him a wide berth, their hushed whispers and quickened pace barely registering. All he could hear was Lily Harper's voice echoing in his head, broken, frightened, desperate. His little sister, the one person he had sworn to protect. The bike growled as he pulled away from the curb, the cool night air biting at his beard. Traffic lights blurred into streaks of color as he weaved through the late-night traffic. Every mile that separated him from Lily Harper felt like a personal failing, a mark of his inadequacy. Unbidden memories surfaced, sharp and vivid. Lily Harper, 6 years old, clutching his hand tightly on her first day of school, her eyes wide with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Lily Harper, 12, beaming with pride as she showed him her straighter report card, a testament to her unwavering dedication. Lily Harper, 16, sobbing on his shoulder after her first heartbreak, the innocent pain of young love lost. He had always been there to pick up the pieces, to shield her from harm, to make things right. But this time was different. This time he had failed. He hadn't been there to prevent it. The thought twisted his gut. Evan Brooks's face flashed in his mind. The clean-cut accountant with his perfectly pressed shirts and practiced smile. Daniel Harper had never trusted him, had always sensed something dark lurking beneath the veneer of politeness. But Lily Harper had been so happy, so convinced that this one was different. A car horn blared, jolting him back to the present as he cut through an intersection, his senses dulled by his mounting fury. His mind was already racing, mapping out the steps that needed to be taken. Find Evan Brooks, make him pay, ensure he never laid another hand on Lily Harper again. The familiar rush of violence surged through his veins, a dark and dangerous tide threatening to consume him. It was a feeling he knew intimately, one that had earned him his notorious nickname within the club, the Beast. He had spent years cultivating that reputation, becoming someone others feared, someone capable of protecting what was his. Glimpses of past transgressions flickered through his mind's eye like frames of a forgotten film. Bar fights, street brawls, the satisfying crunch of bone beneath his fists, the heady rush of power that came with being feared. Daniel Harper shook his head, trying to banish the images. This wasn't about him or his reputation. This was about Lily Harper, lying in a hospital bed with a broken arm. Lily Harper, who had always looked beyond his tattoos and his violent past, who still called him Blue Bear when no one else was listening. The city lights began to thin out as he approached her neighborhood, the familiar landmarks offering a small measure of comfort amidst the chaos. Wind whistled past his ears, carrying the scent of rain. Familiar buildings loomed, each one a testament to her quiet life. The corner store where she bought her morning coffee, a simple ritual that brought her joy. The small park where she liked to read during her lunch breaks, seeking solace in the pages of a book. The bakery where she worked part-time while finishing college, her hands shaping dough into delicate pastries. All these normal, peaceful places now tainted by the specter of violence. And somewhere nearby, the apartment where Evan Brooks had shattered that peace. Daniel Harper's grip tightened on the handlebars as her building came into view. The beast within him stirred, its hunger for retribution growing with each passing second. But Lily Harper's tearful voice kept echoing in his head, a constant reminder of why he was really here. This wasn't about vengeance. This was about his sister, about ensuring her safety, about restoring her peace of mind. The city sounds faded into the background as he focused on the road ahead, his resolve hardening with each passing moment. He pulled into the parking lot, the Harley's engine echoing off the brick walls before fading into silence. Shadows stretched across the asphalt as he dismounted, his boots hitting the ground with a heavy thud. The familiar rage coursed through his veins, making his hands tremble as he clenched them into fists. Third floor, apartment 3C. Every step up the metal staircase rang out like a warning bell. But halfway up the second flight, a figure emerged from the shadows, blocking his path. Even in the dim lighting, Daniel Harper recognized the broad shoulders and steady stance of Logan West. His old friend stood like a barrier between him and Lily Harper's door, his hands raised in a calming gesture. "Daniel Harper," Logan West said, his voice even and controlled. "Hold up a minute." Daniel Harper's momentum carried him up 2 more steps before he stopped, his muscles coiled tight with suppressed fury. "Move, Logan West. This isn't your business. Lily Harper called me." Logan West's words hit him like a physical blow, stealing the air from his lungs. "She asked me to come first to try handling this without violence." The stairwell seemed to shrink around them, the space closing in as Daniel Harper struggled to process what Logan West was saying. His sister had called someone else, had chosen someone else to protect her. "What do you mean she called you?" Daniel Harper's voice was dangerously low, a barely audible growl. "I'm her brother. I'm the one who's supposed..." "She knows you, Daniel Harper." Logan West took a step down, closing the distance between them. His face was etched with concern. "She knows what you'll do to Evan Brooks. That's why she reached out to me first." Daniel Harper's fist connected with the metal railing, the clang echoing through the stairwell like a thunderclap. He broke her arm. "Logan West, what am I supposed to do? Stand here while that piece of... You're supposed to trust your sister," Logan West cut in, his calm tone a stark contrast to Daniel Harper's barely restrained rage. "Trust that she knows what she needs right now?" Daniel Harper moved to push past him, but Logan West stood firm, an immovable object in his path. They'd known each other for 15 years, had ridden together, fought together, bled together. Logan West was one of the few people who could stand up to Daniel Harper without flinching, his resolve forged in the same fires. "Remember the Grant Thompson deal?" Logan West asked quietly, his voice low and urgent. "How it went sideways because we rushed in hot." "This isn't a club matter," Daniel Harper growled, his eyes blazing with fury. "No, it's more important. This is family." Logan West's eyes met Daniel Harper's, his gaze unwavering. "Lily Harper needs this handled differently. She's scared." "Yeah, but she's also scared of what you might do." The words hit home, a painful truth that resonated deep within him. Daniel Harper's hand found the doorframe, gripping it until his knuckles turned white. The metal groaned under his fingers as he fought against the overwhelming urge to charge up those stairs and tear Evan Brooks apart, limb from limb. "I promised her I'd talk to Evan Brooks first," Logan West continued, his voice softening slightly. "Try to resolve this without anyone else getting hurt. She needs that chance, Daniel Harper." Daniel Harper's chest felt tight, as if someone had wrapped barbed wire around his heart and was slowly pulling it in 2 different directions. The beast within him yearned for blood, for the satisfaction of making Evan Brooks pay for every tear Lily Harper had shed. But Logan West's words rang true, a sobering reminder of the consequences of his actions. Lily Harper had made her choice. She'd called Logan West first for a reason. "How long?" Daniel Harper's voice was rough, the sound raw with suppressed emotion. "Give me 24 hours, Logan West said, his gaze unwavering. "I'll make sure he understands the consequences if he ever comes near her again." Daniel Harper stood there, wrestling with his instincts, his mind a battleground between rage and reason. The doorframe groaned under his grip, the metal protesting under the immense pressure. Finally, he gave a short, sharp nod, a reluctant concession to the voice of reason. 24 hours. Then I do this my way." Logan West's shoulders relaxed slightly, the tension easing from his frame. "I'll handle it, brother, I promise." But as Daniel Harper stood there, torn between trust and the overwhelming need to protect his sister, a gnawing unease settled deep in his gut. 24 hours felt like an eternity when his sister was hurting. The dashboard clock ticked over to 9:47 p.m. Daniel Harper drummed his fingers against the steering wheel, his eyes fixed on the warm glow emanating from Lily Harper's third-floor window. His truck, parked in the shadows between two buildings, provided him with a perfect view of the apartment complex. Every muscle in his body screamed for action, urging him to charge up those stairs and deal with Evan Brooks the only way he knew how. But Logan West was up there now, probably sitting across from Evan Brooks, talking in that calm, measured way of his. The thought made Daniel Harper's jaw clench. A couple walked past his truck, laughing and holding hands, oblivious to the turmoil raging inside him. Daniel Harper sank lower in his seat, his broad shoulders hunched forward, trying to make himself invisible. The woman's laughter reminded him of Lily Harper, how she used to laugh so freely before Evan Brooks came into her life. Now, her voice always carried a subtle tremor, an undercurrent of fear, as if she was constantly waiting for something bad to happen. "Come on, Logan West," he muttered under his breath, checking his phone for the 100th time. No messages, no updates, nothing but silence and the maddening tick of time passing. Daniel Harper's mind wandered to all the ways he could handle this situation, each scenario more violent than the last. He could wait until Evan Brooks left the apartment, follow him home, and then... Or he could burst in there right now, Logan West or no Logan West, and end this once and for all. His hands tightened on the steering wheel as he imagined getting his hands on Evan Brooks, making him feel the same pain he had inflicted on Lily Harper. But then, Lily Harper's face flashed in his mind, the way she sometimes looked at him after his violent outbursts, that complex mixture of love and fear that had always torn him apart inside. Was that why she'd called Logan West first? Because she knew what Daniel Harper would do? Because she feared the beast within him as much as she needed his protection? A car alarm went off somewhere in the distance, making him jump, his nerves stretched taut as a wire. Daniel Harper cursed under his breath, angry at himself for being so on edge. He was supposed to be the protector, the one who made things right. Instead, he was sitting here, useless, while someone else tried to fix his sister's problems. His phone buzzed against the console, and Daniel Harper's heart leaped into his throat. He grabbed it so quickly that he almost dropped it, fumbling with the screen in his haste. Lily Harper's name appeared at the top of the message. For a moment, he just stared at it, afraid of what it might say. What if Evan Brooks had gotten to her again? What if Logan West's peaceful approach had backfired, making things worse? Finally, with a deep breath, he opened the message. The words were simple, almost innocuous, but they hit him with the force of a physical blow. "I'm okay, but I need time. Please understand." Daniel Harper felt the knot in his chest tighten, a constricting band of pain. He read the message again, then a third time, as if the words might somehow change, as if he could somehow decipher a hidden meaning within their simplicity. But they remained the same, a gentle yet firm request for space from the person he had spent his whole life protecting. He didn't understand. Couldn't understand how she could want distance at a time like this, when every instinct in his body screamed to rush to her side. Everything in him screamed to ignore the message, to go up there and make sure she was really okay, to see for himself that Evan Brooks hadn't hurt her again. But as he sat there staring at those words on the screen, one thing became crystal clear, cutting through the confusion and the rage. No matter what Lily Harper asked for, no matter how much time or space she needed, he would never let anything happen to her again. That was the one truth he could hold on to, the unwavering beacon that guided him through the darkness. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the walkway as Daniel Harper made his way up to Lily Harper's apartment. His boots felt heavy on each step, the weight in his chest mirroring the leaden feeling in his limbs. The events of the previous night replayed in his mind like a broken record, a bad movie he couldn't turn off. When he reached her door, he hesitated, his large hand hovering over the doorbell, unsure of what awaited him on the other side. Before he could press it, the door swung inward, and there she stood, her presence filling him with relief and trepidation. Lily Harper's small frame seemed even more fragile now, her right arm encased in a pristine white cast that made Daniel Harper's stomach clench with renewed anger. Her eyes were red and puffy, betraying a sleepless night spent wrestling with fear and pain. "Hey, big brother," she said softly, attempting a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Daniel Harper stepped inside, his presence instantly shrinking the small entryway. He couldn't tear his gaze away from the cast, the stark white, a glaring reminder of Evan Brooks's transgression. "Lily Harper." He started, his voice thick with emotion, but the words caught in his throat, choked by a wave of guilt and regret. "I'm okay, Daniel Harper. Really." She closed the door behind him and moved toward the living room, her movements slow and deliberate. "The doctor said it's a clean break. 6 weeks in the cast, and I'll be good as new." But Daniel Harper barely heard her words, his senses hyper-focused on the subtle signs of injury that she couldn't conceal. He noticed the faint fading bruises on her bare arms, the slight favoring of her left side as she walked, and his fists clenched involuntarily, his knuckles turning white beneath his skin. "Logan West was here last night," Lily Harper continued, settling onto her worn beige couch, her voice calm despite the undercurrent of exhaustion. "He talked to Evan Brooks for hours." Daniel Harper remained standing, his broad shoulders tense, his body coiled like a spring ready to unleash. "And?" "Evan promised he'd get help," Lily shot back. "And you promised you'd control your anger." His fist slammed against the wall, making Lily jump. "And so does your brother." Lily's voice cracked with emotion. "Logan West wouldn't lie about seeing you at the bar. Logan West needs to mind his own business," Evan said, his voice rising. "And so does your brother. I see his truck out there, always watching, always judging." Noah's jaw tightened in the hallway, every muscle ready. "They're just trying to help." Lily's voice was steady. "You said you'd work on your anger." "My anger?" Evan's voice rose. Lily's breath hitched in her throat. "You promised. I know you were seeing Dr. Reeves." "Yeah, well, maybe I'm not seeing him anymore. What if I liked what happened?" "Stop it, Evan," Lily pleaded, tears welling. "What do you want from me?" Evan's voice cracked. "I am doing all that I can. I'm not good enough for you. Tell me you will be with me or not." Lily flinched and Evan noticed it. "What? You really hate me? I can't do it. You think you will be better off without me?" "And now," Lily's voice caught, "you are driving me away." The words hung in the air, thick with unspoken fears. "Evan," Lily began softly, reaching for his hand. "Please, let's just talk about this calmly." "Calmly," he exploded, pulling away from her touch. "How can I be calm when my life is falling apart because of one mistake?" He shoved his hands through his hair, his eyes wild with desperation. "I'm trying, Lily. I'm really trying. But nothing I do is ever good enough for you, for your brother, for anyone." "That's not true," Lily protested, but her voice wavered, undermined by the doubt that had been growing within her. Evan turned away, pacing the small space like a caged animal. "I can't do this anymore," he muttered, more to himself than to her. "I can't live under this constant scrutiny, this never-ending guilt." Tears streamed down Lily's face as she watched him unravel, the man she loved slipping further and further away. "Where are you going?" "Away from here," he said, his voice flat. "Away from you. I can't be the man you want me to be. It's over, Lily Harper." He moved toward the door, but Lily couldn't let him leave like this. "Evan, please," she begged, her voice cracking with emotion. "Don't do this. We can fix this. We can work through this together." Evan stopped at the threshold, his back to her. "It's too late, Lily. The damage is done. There's no going back." And with that, he walked out, leaving Lily alone in the apartment, surrounded by the shattered remnants of their love. Noah stood frozen in the hallway, his hand hovering over the doorknob. He had heard the shouting, the accusations, the heartbreaking finality of their breakup. Every instinct screamed at him to burst through the door and comfort his sister, to protect her from the pain that was surely consuming her. But something held him back. He knew that Lily needed to grieve, to process what had just happened in her own way, without his interference. But as the minutes ticked by and the silence from within the apartment stretched on, his resolve began to crumble. He couldn't bear the thought of Lily sitting alone, lost in despair. He had to do something. Finally, with a deep breath, he knocked softly on the door. "Lily? It's me, Noah. Can I come in?" There was no response. He knocked again, louder this time. "Lily, please, I'm worried about you." Still nothing. Fear gnawed at him, a cold dread that threatened to overwhelm him. He tried the doorknob. It was unlocked. With a surge of adrenaline, he pushed the door open and stepped inside. "Anger?" Lily spat the word out like poison, her voice laced with a bitter laugh. "You want to talk about anger? What about the way your brother leers at me when you're not looking? Or the way you visibly recoil every time I reach for you?" The confession ripped from her, raw and unfiltered. "Because you broke my arm, Evan. You broke my damn arm." The words hung heavy in the air, shards of accusations and pain cutting through the silence. A suffocating stillness followed, broken only by Evan's ragged, desperate breaths. Then, a sudden flurry of footsteps echoed, and the apartment door slammed open. Evan stormed past Noah in the hallway, his face a mask of uncontrollable rage, completely oblivious to Noah's presence. Noah rushed into the apartment, finding Lily standing frozen in the middle of the living room, her arms wrapped tightly around herself as if trying to contain the storm raging within. Her face was pale, almost translucent, but her eyes, surprisingly, remained dry. "I'm fine," she insisted, her voice strained even before Noah could utter a word of concern. "He just needs to cool off. Everything is fine." But her trembling hands betrayed her composure, and Noah felt a familiar surge of protectiveness rise within him, an uncontrollable tide of anger threatening to consume him. The morning arrived, ushered in by a crisp autumn breeze that whispered through the crimson and gold leaves outside Lily's apartment window. Evan stood at her doorstep, his broad shoulders slumped with exhaustion and remorse. He clutched a paper bag from her favorite bakery, the aroma of warm pastries fighting a losing battle against the tension radiating from him. His eyes were bloodshot and rimmed with dark circles, evidence of a sleepless night haunted by regret. Lily opened the door slowly, her movements hesitant. She still wore the oversized sweater from the day before, a tangible reminder of the previous day's turmoil. The cast on her arm seemed heavier this morning, a constant throbbing reminder of the violence that had brought them to this precipice. "I brought those chocolate croissants you like," Evan said softly, his voice a mere whisper of its usual confidence. Can we talk, Lily?" She hesitated for a moment, her gaze searching his for any sign of lasting change before stepping aside to allow him entry. From his concealed vantage point in the stairwell, Noah watched the exchange unfold, his hands clenching into tight fists hidden deep within the pockets of his worn leather jacket. He could practically taste the bitterness rising in his throat. Evan placed the bag on Lily's kitchen counter with a gentle thud and turned to face her, his expression pleading. "I'm so sorry about last night, Lily. I shouldn't have lost my temper like that. It was inexcusable." He ran a trembling hand through his disheveled hair, his eyes filled with a desperate sincerity. "I've been working so hard in therapy, Lily. We talk about anger management, about identifying my triggers, about coping mechanisms." His voice cracked, a raw display of vulnerability. "I know I messed up, Lily, but I'm not that person anymore. I swear I'm not." Lily leaned against the wall, maintaining a careful distance between them, both physical and emotional. "You've said that before, Evan," she said softly, her voice laced with a fragile hope. "I mean it this time, Lily. I truly do." He took a tentative step toward her, his eyes searching hers. The drinking, it was stupid, reckless. I was just feeling so stressed, so overwhelmed about everything. About proving myself to you, about meeting your expectations. His eyes welled with tears, a mixture of shame and desperation. "But I promise you, Lily, I'm done with all of that. The anger issues, the drinking, they're behind me now. I'm committed to being better, for you, for us." Lily's face softened slightly, a flicker of hope igniting in her eyes, battling the overwhelming weight of doubt. I want to believe you, Evan." "Then believe me, Lily," Evan pleaded, his voice laced with a desperate sincerity. Give me one more chance, just one more chance to prove it to you. I love you, Lily Harper. I'll do whatever it takes to earn back your trust." Noah shifted in the stairwell, his jaw clenched so tightly his teeth ached as he listened to Evan's carefully crafted promises. Every fiber of his being screamed that this was wrong, that Evan's words were as hollow and empty as they had been countless times before. He longed to burst into the apartment, to drag Evan out by the scruff of his neck and protect Lily from further pain. Evan stayed for another hour, his voice carrying through the thin walls as he continued to plead his case, showering Lily with apologies and promises of a brighter future. Noah listened, his frustration building with each passing minute. When Evan finally emerged from the apartment, a faint glimmer of hope in his red-rimmed eyes, Noah was waiting for him outside, leaning casually against the building's weathered brick wall. "Evan," Noah's deep voice cut through the morning air, stopping the younger man in his tracks. "Noah," Evan replied, his voice tight. "We need to talk." Evan turned, his confident demeanor faltering slightly under Noah's intense stare. He nervously licked his lips, his eyes darting from Noah's unwavering gaze to the imposing figure before him. "Look, Noah, I know what you're thinking," Evan began, his voice laced with a defensive edge. "No," Noah cut him off, pushing himself away from the wall with a controlled force that spoke volumes about the rage simmering beneath the surface. His massive frame seemed to fill the space between them, casting a long, ominous shadow over Evan. "You don't know what I'm thinking, Evan. Because if you did, you'd be running for your fucking life." Evan swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing nervously in his throat. He took a small, almost imperceptible step backward, instinctively retreating from the raw power emanating from Noah. "I love your sister, Noah. I'm getting help. I'm trying to be a better man. Let me make something very clear." Noah's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper, each word laced with a chilling threat. He moved closer, invading Evan's personal space, forcing him to look up into his eyes that reflected a storm of protective fury. "If you ever lay a hand on Lily again, if you ever hurt her in any way, shape or form." He let the threat hang in the air between them, unspoken yet undeniably clear. "It won't happen again," Evan promised quickly, his face paling under Noah's intense scrutiny. "I swear to God it won't. I'd never do anything to hurt Lily again." Noah held his gaze for a long, agonizing moment, searching for any flicker of deception, any hint of insincerity in Evan's eyes. He needed to believe him for Lily's sake, but doubt gnawed at him, whispering insidious warnings in his ear. "For your sake, Evan, I hope you mean that," Noah said finally, his voice still laced with a barely suppressed rage. Evan nodded rapidly, his eyes wide with fear, before turning away and hurrying toward his car, his steps quick and unsteady. Noah watched him go, noting how Evan's hands shook as he fumbled with his keys. The promises hung in the air like smoke, intangible and fleeting, and Noah couldn't shake the feeling that they were just as unsubstantial. The small coffee shop buzzed with morning activity, the clatter of ceramic mugs and the hiss of the espresso machine creating a constant hum. But Noah barely noticed the other customers. His attention was solely fixed on Lily, who sat across from him, stirring her untouched latte with a vacant expression. Her cast had been removed, but she kept rubbing her arm unconsciously, a nervous habit she'd developed since the incident. "He promised he'd changed," Lily said quietly, her voice barely audible over the din of the coffee shop. "He seemed so sincere, Noah. But last night," she trailed off, her hands trembling slightly as she wrapped them around her coffee cup, seeking a source of warmth and comfort. Noah leaned forward, his massive frame making the small cafe table look like dollhouse furniture. He reached across the table and gently covered her hand with his, offering silent support. "What happened, Lily?" Lily took a shaky breath, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "It started over nothing. I was late coming home from work and he just snapped. One minute we were talking, the next he was yelling, his face contorted with anger." She blinked rapidly, fighting back the tears that threatened to spill over. He didn't hit me, Noah, but the way he looked at me, it was like before. That same coldness, that same barely contained rage. The coffee cup in Noah's hand creaked under his tightening grip. He could feel the familiar heat of anger rising within him, threatening to erupt. "That's it," he growled, his voice low and dangerous. "I'm done watching this happen. I'm going to end this, once and for all." "No," Lily's voice was firm, surprisingly so, despite the tears streaming down her face. "That's not why I asked you to meet me here, Noah." "Then why did you?" Noah demanded, his frustration evident in every line of his face. "So I can sit here and watch while he slowly destroys you, piece by piece?" "Is that what you want, Lily?" The morning sun streaming through the window caught the tears in Lily's eyes, turning them into shimmering pools of pain and resilience. "I asked you here because I needed you to understand something, Noah. I needed you to hear this from me." She straightened her shoulders, meeting his gaze directly, her voice gaining strength with each word. "I'm leaving him, Noah, but I'm doing it my way. I need to do this on my own terms." Noah's expression softened slightly, his anger momentarily subdued by a glimmer of hope. "I know you want to protect me," she continued, her voice growing stronger. "But I need to do this myself. I've already packed my bags. Logan is helping me move into a new apartment this afternoon while Evan's at work. Let me help, Lily," Noah insisted, his hands clenching into fists on the table. "One visit from me, one conversation, and he'll never come near you again. I promise you, Lily." Lily shook her head, her eyes pleading with him to understand. "That's exactly what I don't want, Noah. Violence isn't the answer, it never was. I don't want you to confront him. I don't want you to threaten him. I just want to be free of him." She reached across the table, placing her hand over his clenched fist, her touch a gentle plea for understanding. "I need you to trust me, Noah, to handle this my way. I need to prove to myself that I can do this." Noah stared at her hand, so small and fragile compared to his own, yet so full of strength and determination. The same hands that used to grip his fingers tightly when she was learning to walk, now asking him to let her stand on her own. The irony wasn't lost on him. "What if he comes after you, Lily? What if he doesn't let you go?" he asked, his voice rough with emotion, his protective instincts warring with her desire for independence. "I filed a restraining order," Lily replied, her voice firm despite the tremor in her hand. "I've documented everything, all the instances of abuse, all the threats. The police know about his history. I'm not being naive, Noah. I'm being smart. I'm taking precautions. I'm protecting myself." She squeezed his hand, her eyes locking with his. "Just trust me, Noah. Please." Noah stood abruptly, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. He couldn't sit still any longer, couldn't bear the thought of Lily facing this alone, vulnerable and exposed. "You're making a mistake, Lily," he said, his voice thick with worry. "Letting me handle this would be faster, safer, more effective." Lily remained seated, her face a complex mixture of pain, determination, and a quiet defiance as she looked up at him. "Maybe," she admitted softly, her voice barely a whisper. "But it has to be my choice this time, Noah. I need to do this my way, even if it's harder, even if it's scarier." Noah turned away, his broad shoulders tense under his leather jacket. He knew she was right. He knew that she needed to take control of her own life, but that didn't make it any easier to accept. He felt helpless, trapped by his promise to respect her wishes, while a storm of anxiety raged within him. Without another word, he headed for the door, leaving Lily sitting alone at the table, her untouched coffee growing cold, a bitter reflection of the situation. The autumn breeze rustled through the trees as Lily sat in Noah's truck, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, her knuckles white with tension. The familiar rumble of the engine, usually a source of comfort, did little to calm her frayed nerves. She glanced at her phone again, her heart pounding in her chest. 2:45 p.m. In 15 minutes, she would face Evan for the last time. A confrontation she both dreaded and desperately needed. "You don't have to do this in person, Lily," Noah said, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. "A phone call would be safer, less emotionally taxing." Lily shook her head, her gaze fixed on the passing suburban streets, a blur of houses and manicured lawns. I owe it to myself to do this face to face, Noah. I need to say it to his face, to see his reaction. She touched her arm where the cast had been, a silent, visceral reminder of why she needed to end things, of the pain and fear she had endured for far too long. I spent too long being afraid, Noah. I can't live like that anymore. Noah's jaw clenched, his eyes fixed on the road ahead. That's exactly why I don't like this, Lily. The park might be a public place, but it's also isolated this time of day. There won't be many people around. That's why I asked you to come with me, Noah, Lily said softly, turning to look at her brother, her eyes searching his for understanding and support. She noted the tension etched in his shoulders, the barely suppressed rage that threatened to explode at any moment. But you have to promise me something, Noah. What? Noah's voice was gruff, distracted as he navigated a turn, his mind already racing with worst-case scenarios. Promise me you'll stay back unless I signal you. This needs to be between Evan and me. I need to do this myself, without your interference. Noah's grip tightened on the wheel, his knuckles straining against the leather. He couldn't bear the thought of Lily facing Evan alone, vulnerable and unprotected. Lily, Noah, promise me, Lily insisted, her voice firm, carrying a rare edge of steel that she rarely used with her brother. I need to do this my way, Noah. I need to prove to myself that I can handle this, that I'm not afraid anymore. Please. The silence stretched between them, thick with unspoken fears and anxieties, as Noah pulled into the park's almost empty parking lot. Vacant spaces stretched out before them, broken only by a few scattered cars belonging to the occasional jogger or dog walker. The playground stood abandoned in the distance, the swings moving gently in the breeze, their rhythmic creaking a melancholic soundtrack to the impending confrontation. Fine, Noah finally growled, putting the truck in park with a decisive thunk. But I'll be watching, Lily, every second of every minute, one wrong move from him. And I'll signal you, Lily finished, her voice trembling slightly, but her eyes unwavering. She reached over and squeezed his arm, offering a silent gesture of gratitude. Thank you for understanding, Noah. It means more than you know. They got out of the truck, the gravel crunching under their feet, the sound amplified in the otherwise silent park. Lily walked toward the weathered wooden bench near the playground, her steps measured and deliberate, each footfall a small act of defiance against the fear that threatened to consume her. Noah followed a few paces behind, his presence both comforting and slightly suffocating, a constant reminder of his unwavering protectiveness. Lily checked her phone again, her heart pounding in her chest. 2:55 p.m. Evan was supposed to be here in 5 minutes. The wait was excruciating, each passing second stretching into an eternity. Every rustle of leaves, every distant bark of a dog sent a jolt of adrenaline through her veins. Memories flooded her mind, a chaotic mix of happy moments and terrifying incidents. Evan's dazzling smile when they first met, the way he used to surprise her with coffee before work, the gentle way he'd hold her hand during movies, but then the darker memories surfaced, sharp and painful. The first time he'd grabbed her too hard, the way his eyes changed when he was angry, the sickening crack of her arm. Maybe he won't show, Noah said from his position near a towering oak tree, his voice a low rumble of concern. Maybe he finally realized that it's over. Lily wrapped her arms around herself, fighting a sudden chill despite the afternoon sun. He'll come, Noah. He always does. He can't let go that easily. She felt the insidious tendrils of doubt creeping into her mind, that familiar voice that had kept her trapped for so long. Maybe Evan had really changed this time. Maybe she was being too harsh, too unforgiving. Maybe... A warm hand settled on her shoulder, and she looked up to find Noah standing beside her, his towering presence a comforting shield against the fear that threatened to overwhelm her. His expression was softer than she'd seen it in weeks, his usual hardness replaced by a deep, genuine concern. "Whatever you decide, Lily," he said quietly, his voice laced with a tenderness that only he reserved for her. "I'm here for you. No matter what happens, I'll always be here." Lily nodded, grateful for his unwavering support, his silent promise of protection. Even as uncertainty gnawed at her resolve, she checked her phone one more time. 3 p.m. Any minute now, Evan would arrive, and she would have to find the strength to say goodbye to the man she'd once thought she'd spend her life with. The sound of tires crunching on gravel made Lily's heart skip a beat. She recognized Evan's familiar blue sedan pulling into the parking lot, the same car she'd ridden in countless times before, a vehicle filled with both joyful memories and terrifying experiences. Noah tensed by the tree, his muscles coiled and ready to spring into action, but he stayed put, honoring his promise to Lily. Evan stepped out of the car, his shoulders hunched, his usually confident stride replaced by hesitant, uncertain steps. His eyes were red-rimmed and bloodshot, his clothes wrinkled and disheveled as if he'd slept in them. He looked like a ghost of the man she had once loved, a broken and defeated figure haunted by his own demons. Lily felt her resolve weakening at the sight of him looking so broken, so vulnerable. The anger that had fueled her determination began to dissipate, replaced by a wave of pity and a lingering sense of guilt. "Lily?" he called out softly, stopping a few feet away from her. His voice cracked on that single syllable, a raw display of his emotional turmoil. "I knew you'd be here. I knew—" Lily wrapped her arms tighter around herself, trying to remember all the reasons she'd come here today, all the pain and suffering that had led her to this moment. "Evan, we need to talk." "Please, Lily," he whispered, taking a step closer, his eyes pleading with her. "Before you say anything, just hear me out. Please, just give me a chance to explain." His hands were trembling as he reached into his pocket, pulling out a crumpled piece of paper. "I've been seeing Dr. Alan Reeves twice a week, Lily. Here's proof." He held out the therapist's business card, complete with appointment dates scribbled on the back, a tangible symbol of his supposed commitment to change. From his position by the tree, Noah watched the familiar dance unfold, his jaw clenched and his fists clenched at his side. He'd seen this before, countless times, the way Evan could manipulate Lily with his vulnerability, the way he knew exactly which strings to pull in her heart. The tears, the promises, the carefully crafted apologies, it was all a performance, a desperate attempt to regain control. "I'm doing the work, Lily," Evan continued, his voice thick with emotion, his eyes glistening with tears. "I'm really trying, Lily. These past few weeks without you, they've been hell. But they've also shown me how much I need to change, how much I need to become a better man for you, for us." He took another step forward, closing the distance between them, close enough now that Lily could smell his familiar cologne, a scent that used to bring her comfort, but now only evoked a sense of unease. Lily's fingers played nervously with the hem of her sleeve, her carefully prepared speech forgotten in the face of Evan's raw emotion. The words she had rehearsed, the reasons she had planned to articulate, seemed to evaporate in the face of his vulnerability. "You've said this before, Evan," she managed, her voice barely a whisper, lacking the conviction she had hoped to convey. "I know, Lily, I know I have," Evan replied, his voice laced with desperation. He ran a hand through his disheveled hair, his eyes searching hers for any sign of forgiveness, any glimmer of hope. "But this time is different, Lily. I swear to God, this time is different. I'm not just saying the words, Lily. I'm doing the work. I'm putting in the effort. I'm committed to changing, to becoming the man you deserve. Dr. Alan Reeves is helping me understand my triggers, teaching me how to handle my anger, giving me the tools I need to cope with stress and frustration without resorting to violence or alcohol." Tears welled up in his eyes, a mixture of remorse, desperation, and a desperate plea for forgiveness. "I'm not asking you to trust me right away, Lily. I know I have a lot to prove. I'm just asking for a chance, Lily, a chance to show you that I can change, that I can be the man you deserve. Please, Lily, just give me that chance." Noah shifted his weight, fighting every instinct that screamed at him to intervene, to protect Lily from the manipulative tactics he knew Evan was employing. He watched as Lily's posture softened, recognizing the precise moment her determination began to waver, the moment her resolve began to crumble under the weight of Evan's carefully crafted performance. "Evan," Lily began, her voice wavering, her eyes searching his for any sign of lasting change, any glimmer of hope. "Remember that weekend at the lake house, Lily?" Evan asked softly, his voice regaining a warmth and tenderness that had been absent for far too long. "How we talked about our future, about the family we wanted to build together, about the life we dreamed of sharing." He reached out gently, his hand trembling slightly, and took her hand in his touch sending a shiver down her spine. "I still want that future, Lily, but I want to be worthy of it this time. I want to be the husband you deserve, the father our children deserve. Please, Lily, just give me a chance to prove that I can be that man." Lily looked down at their joined hands, tears. The phone vibrated on the bedside table. "Hey, it's Logan." His warm voice resonated through the speaker after 2 rings. "Everything okay?" Lily glanced nervously at her bedroom door, ensuring it was securely shut. Noah had practically camped out on her couch the previous night, fueled by his unwavering need to be close, to protect. "Can we meet? I really need someone to talk to." 30 minutes later, Lily found herself across from Logan at their usual haunt, a cozy coffee shop just 2 blocks from her apartment. The air hung thick with the comforting aroma of freshly ground beans and warm pastries, but Lily could barely register the familiar scents. A knot of anxiety tightened in her chest, stealing her appetite. Logan watched her with those perpetually patient eyes, giving her the space she needed to gather her thoughts. His presence had always been a grounding force, a welcome contrast to Noah's sometimes overwhelming intensity and Evan's unpredictable shifts in mood. With Logan, she could breathe. "I think I made a mistake," she whispered, her voice barely cutting through the low hum of cafe chatter. About the park. With Evan, she cradled the warm ceramic mug in both hands, seeking solace in its gentle heat. "I let him talk me out of ending things, and now..." Logan leaned forward slightly, his expression unreadable. "And now I feel trapped all over again." Her voice cracked, raw with emotion. "He's trying, I can see that. He sends me pictures of his therapy sessions, calls me to detail his progress. But..." She paused, fighting back the tears that threatened to spill. "Something just feels wrong. Like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop, like it's all a facade." "Have you told Noah?" Logan asked gently, his tone laced with concern. Lily shook her head vehemently, her eyes widening. "I can't. You should see the way he looks at me now, like I'm some fragile porcelain doll ready to shatter at the slightest touch. If I admit I was wrong..." She trailed off, unable to voice the full extent of her fear. Logan's voice, though soft, carried an unmistakable firmness. "You're allowed to change your mind, Lily. Making a mistake doesn't diminish you." "But that's just it," she countered, swiping at a stray tear, tracing a path down her cheek. "I feel weak. I feel stupid for believing things would be different this time." She took a shaky breath. "Evan says all the right things, shows me all the right proof, but I still flinch when he moves too quickly. I still compulsively check my phone, terrified I might miss a call and trigger his anger." Unbeknownst to them, Noah had just stepped inside the coffee shop, the bell above the door announcing his arrival. He froze just around the corner, his blood running cold as he recognized his sister's voice. The weight in his chest grew with each hushed word he overheard. "I don't want to disappoint anyone," Lily continued, her voice thick with emotion. "Especially Noah. He tried to warn me, tried to protect me, and I pushed him away. How do I even begin to tell him he was right all along?" Logan reached across the small table, gently squeezing her hand in a gesture of silent support. "Your brother loves you, Lily, more than anything. He'd rather know the truth, no matter how painful, than watch you suffer in silence." Noah remained rooted to the spot, every protective instinct in his body screaming at him to intervene, to wrap his arms around her and vow to fix everything. But the weight of her vulnerability, the raw honesty of her confession, held him captive. She wasn't ready to confide in him, and forcing the issue would only drive her further into herself. With a leaden heart, Noah turned and retreated back out of the coffee shop, leaving her tears and whispered secrets hanging in the air. The morning sun suddenly felt colder against his skin as the bitter realization sank in. Sometimes true protection meant waiting patiently for someone to be ready to accept it. Back at her apartment, Lily paced the confines of her living room, her heart a frantic drum against her ribs. The afternoon sun cast long, distorted shadows across the floor, amplifying the tension that filled the space. She'd called Evan, insisted he come over, knowing that this confrontation couldn't be postponed any longer. Noah, ever vigilant, sat parked in his truck down the street. She'd half-heartedly told him to stay put, but she knew better than to think he'd actually listen. The sharp knock at the door sent a jolt of adrenaline through her. Taking a deep, fortifying breath, she swung it open to reveal Evan standing there, his brow furrowed with what appeared to be genuine concern. "Hey baby," he said, stepping inside without invitation. "What's wrong?" "Your text sounded urgent." Lily instinctively wrapped her arms around herself, creating a tangible barrier between them. "We need to talk, Evan." His face tightened almost imperceptibly. "About what? I can't do this anymore." The words tumbled out in a rush, a dam finally breaking. "Us. This relationship. It's over." Evan's expression underwent a rapid transformation, shifting from confusion to disbelief to a simmering anger in a matter of seconds. "What are you talking about? Everything's been fine." His voice rose sharply, the underlying menace unmistakable. "Is this because of Noah? Did he put you up to this?" "No," Lily said firmly, though her hands trembled, betraying her facade of strength. "This is my decision. I've been pretending things are okay, but they're not. I'm scared all the time, Evan. Scared of saying the wrong thing, scared of making you angry. That's ridiculous." Evan's fist slammed into the wall beside her head, the force of the impact making Lily flinch involuntarily. "I've been going to therapy. I'm doing everything right. You can't just throw away what we have. Look at yourself right now," Lily said quietly, her gaze unwavering despite the fear clawing at her insides. "You're proving my point." Evan's face contorted with rage. He took a step toward her, his voice escalating to a near scream. "You're not leaving me. I won't let you." Just then the door burst inward and Noah filled the doorway, his face a thunderous mask of fury. He moved to intercept Evan, but Lily stepped in front of him, blocking his path. "Stop!" she commanded, her voice laced with a strength she didn't know she possessed. She turned to Noah. "I need to do this myself." Noah's jaw clenched, his knuckles white as he balled his hands into fists. He remained rooted to the spot, his eyes laser-focused on Evan, prepared to unleash hell if necessary. Lily faced Evan again, her voice ringing with newfound resolve. "This is exactly why I'm leaving. The man I fell in love with wouldn't act like this. He wouldn't try to control me or frighten me into staying." "Lily, please." Evan's voice cracked, the anger momentarily replaced by a desperate plea. "I love you. I'll do better, I promise. Just give me one more chance." "No, Evan," Lily said, her voice firm despite the tears welling in her eyes. "I've given you chances. I've given you my trust, my love, my forgiveness, but I can't give you any more of myself. I won't." Evan's shoulders slumped, the fight draining out of him, replaced by a chilling resignation. "You'll regret this," he said quietly, his eyes devoid of emotion. "Nobody will ever love you like I do." "Maybe that's a good thing," Lily replied, her voice barely a whisper. Evan stared at her for a long silent moment, then turned and walked out, letting the door slam shut behind him. The sound reverberated through the apartment like a gunshot, marking the definitive end of their turbulent relationship. Lily stood frozen for a beat, her body trembling uncontrollably. Then, as if her strings had been severed, she crumpled to the floor, the weight of the past few years crashing down on her. Noah was there in an instant, catching her before she hit the ground, pulling her into his arms as she dissolved into a torrent of sobs. He held his sister tightly, feeling her tears soak through his shirt. In all their years together, through all their shared struggles, he'd never seen her so utterly broken. Yet somehow, amidst her raw vulnerability, she'd displayed a strength that both humbled and inspired him. He stroked her hair as she wept, finally understanding that his role wasn't to fight her battles for her, but to be there, unwavering when the fighting was done. The morning sun painted golden streaks across Lily's kitchen counter as she stood preparing breakfast 3 weeks later. Her movements were lighter now, more fluid, less burdened by the invisible weight she'd carried for so long. Each day that passed brought a small but significant victory, a step further away from the darkness. She cracked eggs into a bowl, humming a tuneless melody. The cast had been removed from her arm the day before, and though the doctor had cautioned her to take it easy, simply having full use of both hands again made her feel infinitely more like herself. The bruises, both physical and emotional, were fading, leaving behind only memories that she was diligently learning to process in her twice-weekly therapy sessions. Her phone buzzed with a text from Olivia, her best friend from college. They were scheduled to meet for yoga later that day, an activity Lily had abandoned when Evan complained it consumed too much of her time and attention. Now, she was slowly but surely reclaiming those lost pieces of herself, one activity, one connection, at a time. Noah still drove by her apartment every morning like clockwork, his black truck a familiar, comforting presence on the street. He tried to be subtle about it, but Lily always noticed him, lingering just long enough to ensure her safety before moving on. Instead of feeling stifled by his unwavering protectiveness, she now found solace in it, recognizing it for what it was, an expression of unconditional love. He was giving her space to breathe, to heal, while simultaneously letting her know that he was always there, a solid foundation she could rely on if she needed him. During her therapy session that afternoon, Dr. Alvarez helped Lily put into perspective how far she'd actually come. "You're rebuilding your foundation, Lily," the therapist explained, her kind eyes encouraging. "Every healthy choice you make, every act of self-care is another brick in that foundation. It's a process, not a race." Lily nodded, idly touching the colorful friendship bracelet Olivia had given her after their yoga class. "I feel stronger," she admitted, a genuine smile gracing her lips, "like I'm finally becoming myself again." Later that evening, she met Logan for coffee at their usual spot. Their friendship had deepened organically since the breakup, evolving into a safe and supportive space free from pressure or expectations. They talked easily about motorcycles, books, and Logan's new role at the auto shop, a passion project he'd finally dared to pursue. Lily appreciated his quiet strength, his consistent presence, and the way he never pushed, never demanded, just listened and shared, allowing things to unfold at their own natural pace. That night, as she prepared for bed, Lily paused, catching her reflection in the bathroom mirror. The woman staring back at her looked different, more grounded, more resilient, more at peace. She'd started taking art classes at the community center, something she'd always longed to do but never dared to pursue under Evan's critical gaze. Her first painting, an abstract landscape bursting with vibrant colors, now hung proudly on her living room wall, a testament to her newfound freedom. It wasn't perfect, but it was hers, a tangible representation of her journey toward healing. The next morning dawned clear and bright, the promise of autumn hanging crisp in the air. Lily sat at her favorite outdoor cafe table, eagerly awaiting Noah's arrival. She texted him earlier, extending a rare invitation to join her for breakfast. When he finally walked in, his imposing figure inevitably drawing curious glances from the other patrons, she couldn't help but smile at the way he subtly tried to minimize himself, to appear less intimidating, more approachable. "Hey, little sister," he said, sliding into the seat across from her, his voice softening at the corners. His eyes, Those ever-watchful eyes scanned her face, searching for any trace of lingering pain, an old habit she suspected he'd probably never break. "I ordered your usual," Lily said, pushing a steaming mug of black coffee toward him. "2 sugars, no cream." Noah wrapped his calloused hands around the warm mug, drawing comfort from the heat. "How you doing, really?" Lily took a slow sip of her chai latte, considering the weight of the question. "I'm good," she said, and this time she meant it with every fiber of her being. "The nightmares are less frequent now. Dr. Alvarez says that's normal, that healing isn't linear, that there will be good days and bad days." She watched as Noah's shoulders visibly relaxed, the tension that had become his constant companion easing ever so slightly. "You look lighter," he observed, his gaze softening. "I feel lighter," Lily agreed, her smile genuine and radiant. "For the first time in a long time, I feel like me again." She reached across the table and squeezed his hand, her eyes shining with gratitude. "Thank you for being patient, for letting me handle things my way." Noah's expression softened, and Lily caught a glimpse of something she rarely witnessed in her brother's guarded eyes, a profound sense of peace. Noah sat in the waiting room of Dr. Peterson's office, his large frame making the modern armchair seem oddly small and inadequate. His calloused fingers drummed a restless rhythm against his worn leather jacket, which he stubbornly refused to remove despite the room's comfortably warm temperature. The generic decorative plant perched awkwardly in the corner, and the soothing instrumental music piped through the speakers felt jarringly foreign. A world removed from the familiar sights and sounds of the garage where he typically spent his mornings. A young mother sitting across from him instinctively clutched her purse tighter when she noticed his tattoos snaking out from beneath his sleeves, the ink telling silent stories of a life lived on the edge. Noah was accustomed to this reaction, the wary glances, the subtle displays of fear or judgment. But today it stirred something different within him, not anger, but a quiet, unfamiliar sadness. He thought of Lily, of her remarkable strength in seeking help, and how her courage had ultimately led him here, to this sterile, unfamiliar space. "Mr. Donovan," the therapist called, her voice gentle, her presence radiating a sense of calm. Dr. Wallace was a middle-aged woman with silver-streaked hair, pulled back into a neat bun, and kind, intelligent eyes that didn't flinch when they met his. Inside her office, Noah perched stiffly on the edge of a comfortable-looking couch, his heavy work boots planted firmly on the floor, as if anchoring him to reality. The silence stretched between them, thick and heavy, until Dr. Wallace finally broke it. "What brings you here today, Noah?" He cleared his throat, suddenly finding it difficult to articulate the complex emotions swirling within him. "My sister," he started, then quickly corrected himself, realizing the inadequacy of that simple explanation. "No, that's not entirely true. I'm here because—" He paused, struggling to find the right words. "Because I need to be—" Over the next hour, Noah found himself talking about things he'd kept buried deep within himself for years, things he'd never dared to voice aloud to another living soul. He spoke haltingly, with a raw honesty that surprised even himself, about his violent past, the crushing weight of his self-imposed responsibility for protecting Lily, the simmering rage that had become his constant, unwelcome companion. Dr. Wallace listened without judgment, her expression neutral, occasionally interjecting with insightful questions that forced him to think more deeply about patterns he'd never noticed before, connections he'd been deliberately avoiding. "Violence has been your language of love, Noah," she observed gently, her words hanging in the air like a challenge. "But Lily has shown you that there are other ways to be strong, other ways to protect." The words hit him hard, resonating with a truth he couldn't deny. He thought of Lily's quiet determination during her recovery, how she'd chosen peace over vengeance, forgiveness over bitterness, how she'd faced her demons head-on with a strength he'd never fully appreciated. "I don't know how to be different," he admitted, his voice rough with a mixture of vulnerability and defiance. "That's why you're here," Dr. Wallace replied simply. her gaze unwavering. Over the next few weeks, Noah kept returning, faithfully attending his therapy sessions, despite the discomfort and the resistance he felt rising within him each time he walked through the door. Each session was a battle, but a different kind than he was accustomed to fighting, a battle waged not with fists, but with words, with introspection, with a willingness to confront the darkness lurking within his own soul. He learned to identify his triggers, to understand the root causes of his anger, to recognize the self-destructive patterns that had defined his life for far too long. He even started keeping a journal, a practice he would never in a million years admit to his fellow club members. The simple act of putting his thoughts on paper, of giving voice to his inner turmoil, helped him process emotions he'd never dared to face before. One evening, Lily came to visit his apartment, an unexpected gesture that filled him with a mixture of apprehension and hope. Noah had just finished writing in his journal, quickly tucking it away in a drawer as she entered, his face flushing with embarrassment. The space was noticeably cleaner than usual, another recent change he'd been diligently working on, a small step toward creating a more peaceful and inviting environment. A few potted plants, their green leaves reaching eagerly toward the setting sun, now adorned the windowsill, adding a touch of life and vibrancy to the previously sterile room. They ordered pizza from their favorite local joint and settled onto his worn leather couch, a familiar comfort in the midst of so much change. Lily had brought over a deck of cards, and they played gin rummy like they used to when they were kids. The familiar rhythm of the game filling the comfortable silence between them, a nostalgic reminder of simpler times. "You seem different," Lily observed, laying down a sequence of hearts with a knowing smile. Noah paused, considering her words as he drew a card from the deck. "Maybe I am." He paused, studying his hand. "Been seeing someone, a therapist?" Lily's surprise was evident, but she didn't make a big deal of it, offering no judgment or probing questions. Instead, she simply said, "I'm proud of you, Noah," her voice filled with genuine affection. Her words warmed something deep inside him, thawing the icy wall he'd built around his heart. They continued playing, sharing stories and laughs, reconnecting in a way they hadn't been able to for years. The evening light faded to dusk, casting long shadows across the apartment, enveloping them in a sense of intimacy and shared history. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, Noah felt truly at peace in his own space, with his sister by his side, both of them healing in their own ways, each supporting the other on their individual journeys toward a brighter future. The crisp autumn breeze rustled through the trees as Lily pushed her shopping cart through the parking lot of Wilson's grocery store. The cast on her arm had long since been removed, leaving behind only a faint, almost imperceptible scar, a subtle reminder of that dark chapter in her life, a physical manifestation of the pain she had endured and overcome. She'd just finished picking up the ingredients for a special dinner she was planning to cook for Noah that night, a small gesture of gratitude for all the progress they'd both made, a tangible expression of her love and appreciation. Noah sat parked in his truck across the lot, having insisted on accompanying her to the store, but deliberately giving her the space she needed, respecting her newfound independence. Through the windshield, he watched her load the grocery bags into the trunk of her car, his protective instinct still very much present, but now tempered by the wisdom he'd gained in therapy, a more nuanced understanding of the difference between genuine support and suffocating control. That's when he saw Evan approaching from the store entrance, his silhouette instantly recognizable. Noah's hands tightened on the steering wheel, his knuckles turning white, and a familiar surge of anger coursed through his veins. He instinctively reached for the door handle, ready to spring into action, to defend Lily from any potential threat. But he forced himself to stay put, to take a deep breath, to remember Dr. Wallace's words echoing in his mind. "Trust Lily to handle her own situations, Noah. She's stronger than you think." Still, he kept his eyes glued to the scene unfolding before him, his senses on high alert, prepared to intervene if necessary, but determined to give Lily the opportunity to assert herself, to demonstrate the strength and resilience she had cultivated over the past few months. Lily noticed Evan when he was about 10 feet away. She straightened up, her posture shifting subtly, not in fear, Noah noticed, with a surge of pride, but in quiet confidence, a silent assertion of her own power. Evan stopped, maintaining a respectful distance, his expression unreadable. "Lily," he said, his voice barely carrying across the parking lot. "I didn't expect to see you here." Noah watched intently, analyzing every detail of Lily's demeanor, noting her measured response, how she calmly closed the trunk of her car and turned to face her ex-boyfriend, her head held high, her gaze unwavering. "Hello, Evan," she replied, her voice steady and controlled, devoid of any trace of fear or hesitation. "You look good," Evan said, shuffling his feet awkwardly, avoiding direct eye contact. He looked different somehow, Noah thought, less volatile, more subdued, almost regretful. "I've been wanting to tell you something for a while now," Evan said, finally meeting her gaze, his voice laced with a hint of vulnerability. Lily waited, a strange cocktail of patience and apprehension swirling within her. Noah watched Evan run a hand through his hair, a telltale sign of the anxiety that used to be so familiar. "Lily, I don't know how to say this," Evan stammered, his voice cracking, "but I'm truly sorry. For everything. For the way I treated you, for the pain I caused." He gestured vaguely toward her arm, the gesture heavy with unspoken memories. "I've been getting help, real help this time, and I needed you to know that I understand the magnitude of what I did, and I am deeply sorry." Noah had expected a surge of anger to consume him, a fiery protectiveness roaring to the surface. Instead, he felt a peculiar sense of relief. From his slightly obscured vantage point, he could see Lily's expression shifting, softening ever so slightly, not with lingering affection, but with something akin to understanding, perhaps even forgiveness. "Thank you, Evan," Lily said, her voice clear and surprisingly steady. "I appreciate your apology, I really do. But I've moved on, Evan, and I sincerely hope for your own sake that you can find a way to do the same." Evan nodded, accepting her words with a humility that surprised Noah. He seemed deflated, the cocky arrogance of the past replaced with a genuine remorse. "You deserve to be happy, Lily, you truly do." He turned to leave, then hesitated, as if grappling with a final, difficult confession. "Tell Noah, tell him I'm sorry too." As Evan walked away, Noah felt something begin to unravel inside him. The simmering rage, the constant companion that had haunted him whenever he thought of Evan, began to dissipate, replaced by a surprising sense of closure. He watched Lily stand there for a moment, her shoulders visibly relaxing, her head held high, a subtle but undeniable air of strength radiating from her. Noah stepped out of his truck and walked towards her, crunching over the gravel of the parking lot. The world seemed hushed. The only sounds the distant drone of traffic and the gentle rustle of leaves in the autumn breeze. Lily turned as he approached, and he saw mirrored in her eyes the same sense of closure he felt washing over him. He offered her a reassuring smile, a smile that acknowledged the painful journey they'd both traveled and the incredible strength she'd displayed. The oppressive weight of Evan's actions, which had haunted them for so long, seemed to lift with the breeze, carried away like fallen leaves. They could finally move forward, both of them, without that lingering shadow darkening their lives. Later that afternoon, back at Lily's cozy house, Noah sat at her kitchen table, watching her unpack groceries, a familiar domestic scene that brought him a sense of quiet comfort. The late afternoon sun streamed through the window, casting warm, golden patches of light across the countertop. His sister moved with an easy grace, humming softly as she worked, the sound a balm to his soul. The simple sight made his heart swell with a mixture of pride and acceptance. "You know," he said, breaking the comfortable silence, "I've been thinking about what happened today." Lily paused, a can of soup suspended in her hand. "With Evan?" Noah nodded, drumming his fingers lightly on the worn surface of the kitchen table. Yeah, but not just that. Everything, really. He took a deep breath, searching for the right words, the words that wouldn't cause her any further pain. Remember when we were kids and you fell off your bike? Lily smiled, a flicker of amusement in her eyes as she put the can away. You mean when you practically carried me 6 blocks home, even though I just had a scraped knee? That's the thing, Lil, Noah said, leaning forward, his voice earnest. I think I've always seen you as that little girl, the one who needed me to carry her home. He paused, the unspoken words hanging heavy in the air. But you're not that girl anymore. His voice softened, filled with a newfound understanding. You haven't been for a long time. Lily stopped what she was doing and turned to face him fully, her expression thoughtful. Noah, no, let me finish, he said gently, holding up a hand. Watching you today facing Evan with such strength and grace, I realized something. You don't need me to fight your battles anymore. Maybe you never really did. Lily pulled out a chair and sat across from him, her gaze unwavering. But I do need you, Noah. Just not as a bodyguard. I know that now, he replied, meeting her eyes, a genuine smile gracing his lips. All these years, I thought protecting you meant controlling everything around you. Keeping you safe meant keeping you in a bubble. But that's not love, is it? Lily reached across the table and squeezed his hand, her touch warm and reassuring. No, it's not. Love is what you're doing right now, Noah. Learning to let go. Noah squeezed back, feeling the truth of her words settle deep in his chest. You're pretty wise for a little sister. Do you know that? She laughed, the sound bright and clear, filling the room with warmth. I learned from the best, even if he is a bit overprotective sometimes. Was, Noah corrected with a small smile, was overprotective. Lily stood up, grabbing 2 glasses from the cabinet. Come on, she said, filling them with iced tea. Let's sit outside, it's too nice to stay indoors. They moved to her front porch, settling into the comfortable wicker chairs. The late afternoon air was sweet with the scent of jasmine, and the street was quiet save for the distant sounds of children playing. So, Lily said, taking a sip of her tea, what's next for the reformed beast? Noah chuckled at the old nickname, a relic from a life he was trying to leave behind. Honestly, I've been thinking about maybe helping other guys like me. You know, the ones who think violence is the only way to show they care. He paused, watching a butterfly flutter around the porch railing. Dr. Wallace thinks I might be good at it. Lily's face lit up, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. Noah, that's perfect. You've always been good at helping people, even if your methods were a bit unconventional before. They shared a knowing look, years of shared history passing between them in that single moment. The silence that followed wasn't heavy with unspoken worries or simmering tension. Instead, it was peaceful, filled with the quiet understanding that only comes from walking through fire together and emerging stronger on the other side. The doorbell chimed through the house as the evening sun began to paint the walls in soft orange hues. Lily smoothed her sweater and took a deep breath before opening the door. Logan West stood there, a gentle smile gracing his face, and a small bouquet of wildflowers clutched in his hand. I thought these might brighten up your kitchen table, he said, offering them to her. Lily's face lit up as she accepted the flowers, their delicate colors a cheerful contrast to the lingering shadows of the past. They're beautiful, Logan. Thank you. She stepped aside, gesturing for him to enter. I just made a pot of coffee, if you'd like some. Sounds perfect, Logan replied, following her into the kitchen, his presence radiating a sense of calm and steadiness. As Lily busied herself arranging the flowers in a vase, Logan leaned against the counter, watching her with a quiet admiration. She couldn't help but notice how different it felt having him in her space compared to Evan. There was no underlying tension, no need for cautious steps, just peace. How are your therapy sessions going? Logan asked, his voice gentle as Lily handed him a steaming mug. They settled onto her comfortable couch, the last rays of evening light streaming through the windows. Lily tucked her legs beneath her, cradling her own cup. Really well, actually. Dr. Reeves says I'm making great progress. She paused, taking a sip of coffee, the warmth spreading through her. I've been thinking a lot about the future. Yeah? Logan's voice was encouraging, patient. Everything that happened with Evan, it changed me, but not in the way I thought it would. Lily's fingers traced the rim of her mug, her gaze distant. I thought I'd end up bitter or afraid. Instead, I feel stronger, more sure of myself. Logan nodded, his eyes warm with understanding. I've noticed that change in you, Lily. You carry yourself differently now. I couldn't have gotten through it without you, Lily said softly, her voice filled with gratitude. When everything was falling apart, you were there, not pushing, not trying to fix everything, just there. That's what friends do, Logan replied, his gaze meeting hers. But there was something more in his voice, something tender and hopeful that made her heart flutter. You were more than just a friend, Logan. Lily met his gaze, her own reflecting a newfound courage. You showed me what support really looks like. What? She hesitated, then continued, what love should feel like. Logan set his coffee down and turned to face her fully, his expression earnest and vulnerable. Lily, I want you to know that I'll always be here for you, whatever you need, whatever pace you want to take things. I'm not going anywhere. The sincerity in his voice made Lily's heart swell with a quiet joy. This was what security felt like, not suffocating protection or desperate promises, but a steady, reliable presence. They talked for hours as the sky outside darkened, sharing hopes and dreams, laughing at old stories, and simply enjoying each other's company, the comfortable silence punctuated by easy laughter. When Logan finally stood to leave, Lily felt lighter than she had in months, the weight of the past seemingly lifted from her shoulders. At the door, Logan paused, his voice soft. Thank you for tonight, he said, his eyes filled with genuine emotion. For trusting me with your thoughts, your fears, everything. Lily reached out and squeezed his hand, her heart overflowing with gratitude. Thank you for being someone I could trust. She watched from the doorway as Logan walked to his car, her heart full of a quiet, hopeful joy. On the porch, Noah sat in one of the wicker chairs, having arrived earlier for their weekly dinner, his presence a silent reassurance. He caught her eye and gave her a knowing nod, a silent gesture of approval that meant more to her than words could express. Standing there between her brother's protective presence and Logan's retreating figure, Lily felt the last pieces of her healing fall into place. She'd made it through the darkness, and now, finally, she was ready for whatever came next. The afternoon sun filtered through Noah's kitchen window, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air as he stared at the envelope on his table. The familiar skull logo of the Hells Angels, emblazoned in stark black and white, sent a shiver down his spine. His calloused fingers traced the edges of the paper, each touch a trigger, unleashing a torrent of memories. Brotherhood, power, the intoxicating rush of adrenaline, and the brutal certainty of violence. Inside was a letter from Victor Iron Mike Calder, the chapter president, his words a siren song from a life he was trying desperately to escape. We miss you, Beast, the letter read, the familiar nickname jarring in its casual brutality. The family's not the same without you. Noah's throat tightened, a lump forming that he couldn't quite swallow. He'd spent 15 years with the club, longer than any other commitment in his life, save for his unwavering devotion to Lily. The club had been there when he was lost and adrift, when he craved belonging, when the world seemed to offer nothing but emptiness. They'd given him purpose, a code to live by, a twisted kind of family. They'd bestowed upon him his infamous nickname, the Beast, a testament to his fierce loyalty and unmatched strength, a badge of honor in their brutal world. But now, sitting in his quiet kitchen, surrounded by the mundane trappings of a normal life, the name felt foreign, like a costume he'd long outgrown. He thought about the therapy sessions, the excruciatingly slow process of peeling back layers of trauma and anger, the progress he'd made in managing his violent impulses. Dr. Phillips had helped him understand that his violent tendencies weren't strength, they were armor he'd built to protect himself from a deep-seated pain. a pain he was finally learning to confront. The sound of approaching footsteps pulled him from his turbulent thoughts. Lily stood in the doorway, her face etched with concern as she noticed the ominous letter in his hands. "Everything okay?" she asked, her voice soft but laced with a quiet apprehension as she moved to sit beside him. Noah pushed the letter towards her, the gesture heavy with unspoken anxieties. "The club wants me back." Lily read the letter silently, her expression hardening as she took in Iron Mike's carefully crafted words, the subtle manipulation veiled beneath a veneer of camaraderie. "What are you thinking, Noah?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Noah ran a hand through his thick, unruly beard, a nervous habit he'd developed when wrestling with difficult decisions, a tangible manifestation of the internal battle raging within him. "I don't know, Lil, that life. It was all I knew for so long. It's tempting, but it's not all you are now, Noah," Lily said softly, placing her hand over his, her touch grounding him in the present. "You've worked so hard." Noah looked at his sister, his gaze searching, questioning. Really? Did she truly believe he could escape the pull of his past? He looked at her arm, the cast long gone, but the haunting memory of her broken, afraid, still burned within him. He remembered the incandescent rage that had threatened to consume him that day, how close he'd come to falling back into the old patterns of violence, to unleashing the beast he'd been trying so desperately to tame. "I've been thinking about what Dr. Phillips said," Noah admitted, his voice rough with a raw emotion he rarely allowed himself to express. "About how we get to choose who we want to be, every single day." Lily squeezed his hand, her eyes filled with unwavering faith. "And who do you want to be, Noah?" Noah stood up and walked to the window, his broad shoulders silhouetted against the fading light. He watched the neighborhood, kids playing basketball across the street, their shouts and laughter carrying through the glass, a symphony of innocent joy. "I want to be someone who builds things up instead of tearing them down," he said slowly, the words deliberate, each syllable a commitment. "Someone who can help others without using his fists. Someone—" He turned to face Lily, his gaze locking with hers, a fragile hope flickering in his eyes. "Someone you can be proud of, Lil. Someone worthy of your love." "Oh, Noah." Lily's voice wavered, tears welling in her eyes. "I've always been proud of you. Even when you were lost, your heart was always in the right place. You just needed to find a better way to show it." Noah picked up the letter again, his fingers now firm, resolute. The skull logo, once a symbol of power and belonging, now seemed empty. The brotherhood he'd once cherished felt hollow and meaningless compared to the genuine connection he'd built with Lily, the fragile trust they'd painstakingly restored between them. "I don't need them anymore," he said, the words spoken with a quiet conviction that resonated deep within his soul. "I don't need to be the beast to be strong." Lily stood and hugged him, her arms tight around his waist, her embrace a silent affirmation of his choice. "No, you don't." With steady hands, Noah retrieved a clean sheet of paper from the drawer and began to write his response to Victor Iron Mike Calder, his former brother, his one-time leader. The words came easily, without hesitation, without regret or doubt. He was choosing peace over power, love over fear, family over brotherhood, the future over the ghosts of the past. As he wrote, he felt the last chains of his old life falling away, replaced by something infinitely stronger, hope for the future he was now building, brick by painstaking brick, a future filled with love, forgiveness, and the unwavering belief in his own capacity for change. The tantalizing aroma of grilled burgers and freshly baked cookies drifted through Aunt Mary's backyard, mingling with the sweet scent of blooming roses and the crisp tang of autumn air. Children darted between clusters of lawn chairs, their infectious laughter echoing across the manicured lawn, intermingling with the gentle hum of adult conversation, creating a vibrant tapestry of familial joy. Noah stood at the edge of the gathering, his massive frame feeling somewhat out of place amongst the cheerful decorations and the easy-going family atmosphere. He felt like an outsider looking in, a silent observer who hadn't quite earned his place within this circle of warmth and belonging. Lily appeared at his side, her smile radiant as she gently tugged at his arm. "Come on, big brother, stop lurking in the shadows and join the party." Noah managed a small, hesitant smile. These peaceful family moments still felt strange and unfamiliar to him, like wearing shoes that hadn't quite broken in yet, the leather stiff and unyielding against his skin. But Lily's infectious enthusiasm was irresistible, and he allowed her to guide him towards a group of her friends, their faces warm and welcoming. "Everyone, this is my brother, Noah," Lily announced proudly, her voice ringing with affection. "The one I've been telling you all about." Her friend, Olivia Bennett, a kindergarten teacher with kind, understanding eyes, extended her hand without hesitation, her smile genuine and disarming. Noah carefully shook it, acutely aware of his own strength, of the potential for harm that lurked within his massive frame. He made a conscious effort to soften his grip, to convey a sense of gentleness rather than intimidation. "Lily's told us so much about you, Noah," Olivia said warmly, her gaze steady and non-judgmental. "Especially about how you've been there for her this past year. You're a wonderful brother." Noah shifted his weight, feeling a blush creep up his neck. He was uncomfortable with the praise, unsure how to accept such a simple expression of gratitude. "Just doing what any brother would do," he mumbled, avoiding eye contact. Not every brother would have shown such patience and understanding. Lily's other friend, Mike, chimed in, his voice filled with sincerity. Mike was a counselor at the local youth center, and his genuine smile and easygoing demeanor immediately put Noah at ease. "Lily says you've been going to therapy too. That takes real courage, man. It's not easy facing your demons." The old Noah would have bristled at such a personal conversation, would have clammed up and retreated into his shell of stoicism. But now, he felt a surprising flutter of pride, a sense of accomplishment at having taken those difficult first steps towards healing. "Yeah, well," he said, shrugging, "sometimes being strong means admitting you need help. It's about finding a different kind of strength." Lily beamed at him, her eyes sparkling with pride, and Noah noticed how different she looked from a year ago. The dark shadows under her eyes were gone, replaced by a healthy glow. She laughed more easily now, her whole body relaxing into the sound, and there was a lightness in her step that had been missing for far too long. Aunt Eleanor, her voice warm and maternal, called everyone to the tables laden with food, a feast of summer flavors spread out beneath the shade of the ancient oak tree. Noah found himself squeezed between Lily and their cousin Daniel, a paper plate balanced precariously on his knee, the weight of the food a tangible symbol of the abundance and warmth that surrounded him. The conversation flowed naturally around him, a gentle current of shared experiences and fond memories. Stories about work, childhood escapades, plans for the future, the mundane details of everyday life that he had once dismissed as trivial now seemed precious and meaningful. No one flinched when he spoke. No one watched him with wary or fearful eyes. No one seemed to judge him for the mistakes of his past. "Remember when Noah used to give us piggyback rides?" Daniel's daughter, a bright-eyed girl named Emily, piped up, grinning at him. "You were like a human jungle gym. We used to climb all over you." Noah chuckled, remembering those simpler times, the carefree days of childhood innocence. "Yeah, and you kids nearly broke my back. I was a walking chiropractor, Bill." "You loved it." Lily nudged him playfully, her eyes sparkling with affection. "Just like you loved reading us bedtime stories, even though you pretended to hate it. You'd put on this gruff voice and try to scare us, but we always knew you were a softy at heart." The afternoon sun bathed everything in a warm golden light, casting long shadows across the lawn and painting the scene with a nostalgic hue. Noah watched as Lily shared photos on her phone, showing Olivia and Mike pictures from their recent hiking trip, her voice animated as she described their adventures, her enthusiasm infectious. He felt something settle in his chest, a peaceful certainty that they were exactly where they needed to be, surrounded by love, support, and the promise of a brighter tomorrow. Around them, family members moved easily between conversations and activities. a seamless flow of connection and camaraderie. Uncle Robert was teaching the younger kids how to play horseshoes, his laughter booming across the yard, while Aunt Eleanor distributed her famous chocolate chip cookies, the sweet aroma filling the air with a sense of comforting nostalgia. There was no pressure here, no expectations, just the simple joy of being together, of celebrating the bonds of family and the enduring power of love. Noah didn't need to prove anything anymore, nor did he feel the need to maintain that tough, intimidating exterior. He glanced at Lily, his sister, caught in a fit of laughter at something Mike had quipped. She had blossomed, grown incredibly resilient, not in spite of her trials, but because of them. And, in a twist of fate, by aiding her recovery, he had stumbled upon his own path to serenity. The aggressive biker, once known as the Beast, now felt like a character ripped from the pages of someone else's turbulent history. A gentle breeze wafted through the air, carrying with it the sweet fragrance of late summer blooms, and Noah Harper was overcome by a profound sense of gratitude. It had been a long, arduous trek. There had been agonizing pain, moments of crippling doubt, and a seemingly endless string of difficult decisions. But as he sat here, enveloped in genuine affection and acceptance, he wouldn't alter a single step that had paved the way for them. The morning sun peeked over the distant horizon, painting the vast canvas of the sky in delicate hues of rose and apricot. Noah Harper was seated on his front porch, a steaming mug of coffee warming his calloused hands. His therapist had suggested initiating each day with a period of quiet contemplation. Initially, he had scoffed at the notion, but he had gradually come to cherish these tranquil moments of reflection. The faded tattoos that adorned his arms chronicled tales of his checkered past. Some he regarded with a sense of pride, others he wished he could somehow erase from existence, but they were all integral parts of his identity, marking the winding journey that had led him to this very spot. He traced the faded ink with his weathered finger, his mind drifting back to the angry young man who had acquired each one. Birds chirped melodically in the old maple tree beside his modest house, their morning serenades blending harmoniously with the distant hum of early morning traffic. Noah took a long, deliberate sip of coffee, savoring its comforting warmth as it spread through his body. For what felt like the first time in years, he felt completely and utterly present, grounded in his own skin. The constant nagging urge to fight, to prove his worth to the world, had dwindled to a faint, barely audible whisper. His thoughts drifted to the crumpled letter from his old motorcycle club, now residing in the depths of his trash can. There was a time when that brotherhood had represented everything to him. But as he sat here now, watching the sun ascend higher and higher into the boundless sky, he knew with unwavering certainty that he had made the right decision in walking away from that life. The screen door creaked open behind him, and he heard Lily's familiar footsteps approaching. She had recently adopted the habit of stopping by during her morning walks, a new routine that they both genuinely treasured. Noah smiled warmly as she settled into the chair beside him, her own coffee cup clutched securely in her hand. "You're up early," she observed, pulling her cozy sweater tighter around her against the morning chill. "Just thinking," Noah replied, his voice soft and gentle. The gruff, abrasive edge that had once characterized his speech had gradually softened with the passage of time. "Good thoughts?" He nodded slowly, watching a pair of vibrant cardinals flitting back and forth between the branches of the ancient tree. "Different thoughts about who I am now, who I aspire to become." Lily smiled knowingly, understanding shining brightly in her eyes. She had been a steadfast presence throughout his darkest hours, watching him bravely struggle to shed the heavy armor he had worn for so long. Now she saw a man who could laugh without reservation, who no longer felt the compulsive need to intimidate everyone around him. The rising sun caught the silver threads in Noah's beard, stark reminders of the relentless march of time. But his eyes appeared clearer, lighter now, unburdened by the crushing weight of perpetual anger. He had discovered strength in embracing vulnerability, power in consciously choosing peace over conflict. "You know," Lily said softly, her voice laced with affection, "I always knew this person was in there. Even when you were at your absolute scariest, I could catch glimpses of who you really are." Noah's throat tightened with emotion, and he struggled to find the right words. "Yeah, well, took me long enough to catch up." They sat in comfortable, companionable silence, watching the neighborhood gradually come to life around them. A jogger waved as she passed by, and Noah raised his coffee cup in a gesture of greeting. There was no fear evident in her eyes, no hurried steps taken to distance herself from him, just a simple, neighborly acknowledgement. The morning light grew stronger, relentlessly chasing away the last lingering shadows of dawn. Noah felt the gentle warmth of the sun on his face, a poignant reminder that each new day brought with it a wealth of possibilities. His past would forever remain a part of him, intricately woven into the fabric of his being, but it no longer held the power to define his future. Lily reached over and gently squeezed his hand. Together, they watched the sun rise in its full glory over the horizon, its radiant light touching everything with a promise of renewal. There was a profound sense of peace in this shared moment. No need for superfluous words, no battles left to fight. Just two siblings, made stronger by all that they had overcome, now ready and willing to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Laughter echoed in the warm afternoon air as Noah and Lily strolled leisurely through Henderson Park. Children darted playfully across the expansive playground, their gleeful shrieks intermingling with the gentle rustling of leaves overhead. The familiar crunch of wood chips beneath their feet instantly transported them back to their childhood, a time when life seemed simpler, less complicated. Lily paused momentarily to watch a little girl being pushed on the swings by her loving father. The heartwarming sight brought a smile to her face, though there was also a subtle hint of sadness lurking in her eyes. "You know, for a while there, I honestly didn't think I'd ever feel normal again," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. After what Evan Brooks did, I was convinced that I'd always be looking over my shoulder, constantly waiting for the next horrible thing to happen." Noah nodded slowly, his hands shoved deep into his jean pockets. The mere mention of Evan Brooks' name no longer caused his fists to clench or his jaw to tighten with uncontrollable rage. Instead, he felt a sense of calm acceptance wash over him. "Fear does that to you," he said quietly. "It makes you forget who you really are." They continued walking along the winding path, passing families spread out comfortably on checkered picnic blankets and carefree teenagers tossing frisbees back and forth. Lily's steps were lighter now, more confident. The heavy cast on her arm had long since been removed, leaving behind only lingering memories of that dark, difficult period in her life. "Remember when you used to bring me here after school?" Lily asked, gesturing towards an old, sprawling oak tree. "You'd sit right there and watch me play, always making sure that no one bothered me." "Yeah," Noah chuckled softly, running a hand self-consciously through his graying beard. "I was always spoiling for a fight, wasn't I? Even back then." "You were protecting me," Lily said, touching his arm gently. "But you've learned that there are other, far better ways to show love." They discovered an empty bench situated near the serene duck pond. The late afternoon sun cast long, dancing shadows across the lush green grass, and a cool, refreshing breeze carried with it the sweet, intoxicating fragrance of nearby flowers. Noah watched a mother helping her small toddler feed the ducks, his mind flashing back to the countless times he had done the same thing with Lily so many years ago. "Sometimes I look at old pictures of myself," Lily said, her voice tinged with melancholy, "from when I was with Evan. I barely recognize that person anymore. She looks so scared, so small." She straightened her shoulders, lifting her chin with newfound confidence. "I don't feel small anymore." Noah smiled warmly, a feeling of profound pride swelling in his chest. "You never were small, Lil. You were always stronger than you knew, stronger than me in your own way. I learned from watching you," she replied honestly. "Not the fighting part, of course, but the way you kept going, even when things were incredibly hard. The way you bravely faced your demons in therapy, how you actively chose to change for the better. A boisterous group of kids ran past them, chasing a bright red soccer ball. Their parents called out words of encouragement from the nearby benches. Noah thought about how dramatically different his life could have turned out if he had chosen to remain loyal to the club, if he had allowed his anger and resentment to continue consuming him. "You know what my therapist said last week?" he asked, turning to face his sister directly. She said, "Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is simply admit that we need to change. And then actually do it." Lily's eyes shimmered with unshed tears, but her smile was radiant and genuine. "Look at us now," she said, reaching out to grasp his weathered hand. "Who would have ever thought that we'd end up here?" The sun began its majestic descent, painting the boundless sky in breathtaking shades of brilliant orange, fiery red, and soft, delicate pink. Noah squeezed Lily's hand reassuringly, feeling the strength and resilience in her grip. They sat there together, in comfortable silence, watching the day gradually wind down. Two survivors who had navigated their way through the darkest depths of despair, ultimately finding their way towards something infinitely better, something truly beautiful. And as the final moments of this story settle in, what remains is more than what happened. It's what it revealed about courage, loyalty, and the quiet strength to protect what matters most. Thank you for staying with us until the end. If stories like this speak to you, please consider subscribing to Heart Tales so you never miss the next journey. We'd truly love to hear your thoughts. What part of this story stayed with you the most? Share your perspective in the comments below, and don't forget to continue watching the videos waiting for you on the end screen of this video.